Hey, everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast Bonus Edition. That's right, we're giving you an extra special show this week. Why? Because we love you. That's right, everyone here at the No Vacancy Podcast thinks you are simply the best. And thank you so much for listening, which is why we're giving you an extra podcast today. So I hosted this great panel at Amadeus Hospitality's annual user conference a little bit earlier this year. It's going back a few months already. Man, the summer went so quick. I can't believe this was actually before summer season started, but it feels like yesterday, but it was a few months ago already. And this is going to be great because what we're going to be doing today is we're all going to be talking about staff safety culture, staff security, and how to make sure everybody working in your hotels is taken care of. We're going to learn a little bit about why there's more legislation now, which is really focused on protecting hotel staff, what you need to do about it. We learned why major hotel brands are starting to adapt AHLA's 5-star promise. And we heard from our experts how hoteliers can adopt new safety, staff safety culture, and what they can do today to improve safety for the people working in your hotel. That means people like you, what you can do out there. We've got a lot of great people. We've got Andrea Wheel, VP of Strategic Partners with the AHLA, Parminder Batra, who co-founded and is the CEO of Track and Protect, Stephen Norris, VP of Business Development with Blue IP, Einar Rosenberg, Chief Information Officer with Creating Revolutions, and Rob Munkman, founder and CEO of React Mobile. And of course, there's me, yours truly, Glenn Haussman, host here of the No Vacancy Podcast, who is moderating this panel. Shoot, guys, if you really like what you hear and you want me to moderate panels at your event, drop me a line. You know how to find me, Glenn, at rouse.media, or find me at Traveling Glenn. But I hope you enjoy this particular session. I know I had a great time hosting it, and I learned a lot. So enjoy. Let us know what you think. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here with our regular show next weekend. Thanks. Hey everybody, Glenn Haussman here. I am the host of No Vacancy Podcast and president of the No Vacancy News Network, where I do all sorts of great videos, podcasts, et cetera, in the hospitality universe. I'm really excited and delighted to be here today to be talking about an issue that I don't understand why it only is coming to the fore now and hasn't always been part of it, and that's going to be about improving staff safety culture. So in order to get us through today, I have Mr. Stephen Norris with Blue IP, Einar Rosenberg with Creating Revolutions, Mr. Rob Munkman, founder and CEO of React Mobile. Then we have Adrienne Well, VP of Strategic Partnerships with AHLA, and Ms. Parminder Batra of Track and Protect. Welcome, guys. How are you today?
Doing well.
Great. So I think the best place to start is to help orient folks that might not know what your companies are. So real quick, succinct explanation of who you are and what your company does. Steve, you want to take it away?
Good morning. We're Blue IP. We're a cloud communications provider, SIP trunking, host PBX. For 911, we're providing about 340,000 rooms for 911 management routing. We also build a common operating platform for push-to multimodal. We're a consumer of Panic Solutions information.
Great.
Creating Revolutions, we spent 3.5 years building this AI specific for hotels that create efficiency, accountability, and safety for employees.
Right. And he gets up at 4 a.m. every day to make us all look like we can't accomplish anything, which I love. Next.
Rob Munkman, I'm the founder and CEO of React Mobile, and what we do is simple. We focus on one singular problem, and that's helping people everywhere in times of distress.
Excellent. Adrienne?
I'm Adrienne Weil. I'm VP of Strategic Partnerships at AHLA, which is the American Hotel and Lodging Association in DC, and we are focused on promoting and protecting the hotel industry.
Beautiful.
And I'm Parminder Batra, CEO and co-founder of Track and Protect, where we provide safety buttons, and employee safety is a key part of what we do, but we also provide an IoT platform to hotels so that while they're saving employees, they can also actually increase efficiency and productivity at the same time by using multiple products.
Excellent. So more like workflow optimization type
Exactly.
of products?
Labor optimization, workflow optimization, asset optimization. So all sorts of things in there.
Well, yeah. I personally think as somebody's been kicking around the business for a couple of decades, that is the next big frontier. I think that's really where we're going to start to see a lot of efficiencies, but we're not talking about that today.
No, we're talking about safety.
No, we're talking about keeping employees safe. But one of the things, I guess, to keep them safe is to make sure they have a great working environment and all that throws in. So listen to this shocking statistic. According to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, approximately 14% 14% of all sexual assaults reported in the United States between 2005 and 2015 were targeted hospitality professionals, the highest of any industry. That is absolutely shocking to me. And in addition, the Unite Union in the UK found that 89% of hospitality professionals surveyed experienced one or more incidents of sexual harassment on the job. That is shocking to me in a way that I can't really fully understand. I'm going to open this up. Maybe, Parminder, since you're next to me, you can start. Why now, or all of a sudden, are we waking up to this issue and human trafficking issue and some of these issues of safety and security in hotels that were largely ignored until the last few years?
Well, so, I think it's, the big thing is, and as I was talking yesterday, it's like when we look at Made in Manhattan and movies, it was something that was funny. It was something that was accepted. It was something part of the culture. And what's happened now is
I hate to not be up on, the latest J-Lo films and stuff.
So,
like that.
but this is not a latest one.
All right, it was from like 10 years ago.
And no one really admits to watching it.
Yeah.
There's a scene in there where she walks into a room, there's a naked man, and everyone laughs. And that's, I think it epitomizes the fact that, this was sort of accepted. It was something that was in the movies. It's like the cigarettes that, it was accepted.
Right. I couldn't believe I watched Ghostbusters with my kids recently. They're smoking in like every single scene in the movie.
Right. So that's the thing. It was part of the culture. And now what's happened is that there's been a shift. There was an incident in New York where Dominic Strauss-Kahn, the CEO of IMF, allegedly sexually assaulted someone. And then that brought to light an issue and that brought union requirements in New York. But the other shift we've had is the Me Too movement. And with that, it's brought to light not only the fact that no one's immune to it, whether you're a professional woman, whether you're working in a corporate world, but then it's also highlighted that housekeepers are targeted on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
The fact that they're the heart of the hotels, but they're interacting and they're seeing the guests at their worst, not just dirty towels on the floor, but they're seeing guests do things that really are inappropriate. So that's why the shift has happened.
Wow, fascinating. Adrian?
I certainly, and agree with what Parminder has shared, but I think it's important to also recognize that this is something that the industry has been dealing with like any other industry.
Right.
And we're we could say this is at an inflection point in terms of there being a renewed focus on it, but for decades, our hotels have been having policies and procedures in place, and this is an opportunity to really bump that up.
Right. To me, it just feels like it's just kind of come into the American consciousness, right? As opposed to bubbling below the surface, which is why I kind of framed it that way. Rob, how are you seeing the state of security these days in hospitality environment?
I would agree. I think there's a new focus that's bringing to light a lot of the issues that hotels face. But I would also agree with Adrian that many of our customers were out ahead of this problem before legislation, before collective bargaining agreements, and before the 5-star promise, doing the right thing. And so we actually try to really highlight the good work that hotels are doing and flip some of those negative media stories on its head, because we see some leading brands that are doing a lot and they're standing up to protect their employees.
So then maybe, what we're really talking about here is the advancement of technology, which has created this next generation of systems that help push it to the fore of the customer consciousness.
It's kind of a twofold aspect of technology. On the one side, you now have technology that is easier tools and a generation that basically is more comfortable using these tools. And on the other side, you have social media, which is part of this technology, which was the driving force. I mean, Me Too movement had existed for over 20 years. Why now, you ask? Because social media, because you don't have a 30-second blurb at 6:30, news. You have people pushing from friends and family.
Right.
So it's twofold technology.
Excellent. So, Steve, now that 4 people have said everything, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, a couple of you guys took my answer.
Yeah,
but, my question. But now, to take a little bit different spin on it, I think it's also starting to become competitive. So if one hotel chain does it, the other hotel chain does it because their employees are going to feel safer in their hotels operating. And so it's interesting to see this movement start to gain traction of hotels and chains starting to become safety conscious, aware, and giving people the tools to feel safer.
Right. Excellent. So OSHA reported last year there were approximately 275,000 injuries in the hospitality industry, more than 6,700 of those cases affecting local room attendants. So it's not just safety; it's also taking care of the people's health if something happens. who wants to jump into some of the ways that these devices can help people that might have a medical situation or some other situation? Einar, I just want to make sure I got your name right.
One of the things that we do is we monitor health. So
Right.
we know if there's a stroke or if you're having a heart attack, things like that. And our AI.
How does that work?
So it's a combination of three key things.
Right.
Basically, human kinematic sensors. The body moves certain ways when it's reacting to shock or these types of things. An option for body monitoring, like heart rate, blood pressure, etc. And then environmental analysis, how you're impacting in the environment, gravitational forces, things like that. And the AI takes everything of
Right.
that and says, okay, this is a medical emergency. And instead of like just calling security, it calls security and the doctor in the hotel, because it realizes the difference. These are the real world things. If you get injured, okay, like you said, a 250,000 people. These are important things, because the longer you have to wait for help, the more likely that you're going to be out,
Right.
that you're going to lose an employee, that you can have a major lawsuit because of things. So there's a variety of factors.
Great. Rob?
We've actually had an instance where somebody was having a heart attack, and we were able to save a life, and we're very proud of that fact. I think it's really important that many of the solutions that are here today, we don't just help people reach a wide network when they need help, but we help to locate people inside
Right.
these massive buildings, which is critical, because in a medical emergency, like any emergency, every second counts.
Fascinating. Anyone else want to add to that? All right, so Parminder, let me ask you, why are employee safety devices only a part of the solution?
Well, I think we talked earlier about the shift in culture, right? So it's really a mindset change, and it's the shift. So safety buttons are just one aspect of it. There's a whole training aspect that goes along with it. There are other things that have to go along to make sure that there's the whole environment. Because one thing that, the stats, for example, that you're focusing on and the things that come out are guest versus employee sort of attacks and so on. But there's also employee on employee. And we've had an incident where a customer called and said, we've had an incident and it was an employee on employee issue, and the button helped. So it has to be part of the whole statement and not just one aspect of it. And then the other part is, we're all talking about human trafficking now. There's now a requirement that states must provide, or various states are looking at it, cities and brands are looking at, and they are doing it, like Marriott are providing human trafficking training to their clients and customers everywhere. So what that means now is that housekeepers have to be trained on human trafficking. Well, that's also part of the safety culture that you're creating. And if you give them the tools to call for help as they need it, and safety buttons are part of that, where they, you can, instead of intervening, you can press the button, then you're shifting the culture completely, rather than just focusing on one aspect of it. But as we talked about health, we're talking about human trafficking. You're able to do things all along the way and really shift the entire platform, I would say, of safety within hotels.
Fascinating. So, Steve, that's interesting to me, because sitting here as the outsider, I just kind of think it's a button and not more. I hadn't recognized the whole training aspect. So how do you see hotels could create a program that keeps everybody safe?
We work with a lot of the safety button folks like Paraminder and the gang. And so one of the things we see it is staff alerting does not equal staff safety, right? And so to do true staff safety, you got to start to communicate. You got to ascertain what's the priority of the situation, what assets to deploy. If I got a 911 call and a bunch of panic buttons going off, keep in mind about 51% of the times panic buttons are going to be false alarms or malfunctioning devices, or are you going to deploy an asset and not meet the officer at the door? Right. So it's really part of this common operating picture that you got to safety is alerting is one aspect, but you have to work with other systems to be able to truly provide safety are part of the big picture.
That's great. Adrian?
And building on what they had shared, we launched the 5-Star Promise in September of last year.
What does that mean?
And the 5-Star Promise is really a pledge from our members who sign on to be part of a 5-point 5-star pledge. And that includes not just the safety devices, but to everyone's point, training, culture, et cetera. And we've got a 5-star resources page on our site, which folks next to me have supported in addition to others. And it's a way to really access those resources, both from leading nonprofits when it comes to human trafficking, as well as understanding what are best-in-class procedures and policies that can be put in place.
Right.
Because it does need to be wraparound. This is a human issue, and just putting a button in someone's hand is not going to be sufficient.
Right, that's right. And there's a lot of great resources out there. HLA is doing a terrific job on this, as is the AHOA, the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, has really gotten behind that with now former Chairman H.P. Patel. And of course, you could reach out to our government. There's a lot of resources that are being created there, which I'll allow you all to share a little bit more in a little later. But Rob, hoteliers kind of, see staff safety as kind of a cost of doing business, right? But what's actually changed in the industry, and how can hoteliers start to adopt a new culture around safety and security?
Well, I think the conversation starts now, having these types of discussions. I think everybody here can recognize that, and it's been discussed that a safety button itself is not a silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve these multi-layers of risk that hotels face. Right?
But very helpful if the Wolfman's after you.
Exactly. And so if we can start to have these discussions that are backed by, H&LA and 5-Star Promise, and you've got now 20 brands that are doing something about this, then we're heading in the right direction. So I think creating awareness, having the conversations, taking steps to implement solutions that can protect your staff, that's the first step. And I think it's like a tidal wave that's just going to keep going.
To anyone has a guts to answer this one, why are people not going all in on safety and security? Is it an education issue? Just cost?
I would say lack of education.
Yeah.
Honestly, they don't know there are so many technologies, and the first question we get is, Perimeter, we don't know what to do.
Right.
I mean, there's Bluetooth, there's RF technologies, there's ultra wideband, there's ultrasonic. How do I make sense of it all? And by the way, what am I required to do? Because my state is this, my city is this. What do I need to do? And then my brand is this. So within all of these requirements, so it's the education. And because it's your safety buttons, they have been used. So I was talking to someone yesterday and they said they were using them in Germany in 2002, but different variation of them. Called them panic button. Now we call them staff alert devices. So fact is, there has been a shift in language as well. But as you do it, now there are more vendors that sell safety buttons. But how do you make sense of it? What do I need? What technology will work in my building? Again, what will comply with the regulations in my area that will help me? And to me, I think that's the first thing that they need is education. And then comes cost, because now then they can make a decision on price.
Right. So, Einar, I know you wanted to talk about cost. So do you feel that maybe it freaks them out and then they take a step back?
I think that hoteliers are a business, and when you look at a business, you have to have cost versus benefit, right? So for them, and this is unfortunately true, because I'm talking to the guys that are mostly men that are GMs.
That's right.
And they think of a safety button as something that doesn't reduce their overhead costs and doesn't increase their revenues. They just see it as something that's going to take away my profits. I don't think they're bad people thinking that way. I think that at the end of the day, they realize they can't spend everything. I mean, hotels can be profitable, but only if they're run well.
Right. Well, HLA, I'd love to hear about legal stuff, and then back to you, Parminder.
Well, I am not a lawyer, and our general counsel wouldn't want me to talk about that. But what I will say in terms of where we see it going, I mean, right now we're very much focused on the 5-Star Promise through 2020, and a recognition, as Rob has talked about, that there are so many other opportunities to see this go. That's really where we're at.
That was a great Washington D.C. pivot. I'm very proud of you on that, Parminder.
So I'm going to disagree with Einar there. The fact is that Einar, I'm so sorry, Einar.
You should have learned after I got
stolen. I know. I'm so sorry.
Well,
I mean, I'm Parminder, by the way. Steve and I've talked about this, and we actually have an integration with NEC where you are able to do this. And what that does is it's part of the workflow where you are able to actually inform the guests. So it goes into a workflow where, yes, initially there's an alert, and as soon as security puts it into that workflow, there's a messaging between Blue IP, NEC, and Track and Protect where you're able to actually message that. So this, not to be a plug, but the technology exists. It's how do you do it? And each one of us has the capability to be able to do that and get the message out to the guests through different platforms so that they do know.
I just want to know, because we're not talking about
we could take that offline.
We're talking about consumers.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guests. So give me a scenario, because if you're going to say text message, I ignore most.
It seems to me fire alarm would probably
I was going to say, right now, panic or staff alerting is in a silo in itself. It's not regulated by the fire marshal. It's not regulated by the FCC. It's really not part of fire safety business within a hotel. It's kind of its own entity. As you start to step into the fire safety type aspects, you get into mass notifications, fire alarms, and all that. And there are ways of communicating if it warrants. Panic alerts and things like that are not warranted yet in that equation. Someday it may be, but right now it's not. Right. And so.
So we are totally out of time, but I do want to give you guys a quick chance for some final thoughts. So quick, succinct thoughts, starting with Steve. We'll work our way down.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as new technology comes into the theater, like CBRS, 5G, new location technologies. It's going to be interesting and what it's going to do to all these folks and the solutions they're going to build.
Great. Einar?
Miami is the best city in the world.
All right. Period. Awesome. This guy from Brooklyn, I don't know about that.
I don't know if he made you friends.
You know what I'm saying.
Well, when you're in the winter, and I'm at the beach, remember that.
All right. That was just cruel. All right, Rob?
We touched on cost. I think one of the big deterrents for hotels is they're seeing this massive cost to implement a panic button at their hotel. And, I think everybody here can alleviate those concerns that you can get a robust solution to protect your employees without breaking the bank.
Beautiful. Adrian?
This is an industry of people taking care of people, and we've talked so much about the technology. We have touched on the training, and that's where a lot of the human element comes in, but we just encourage folks to remember that. That's part of what can get people to pay attention during trainings, the feeling like, I really care about you, and that the opportunity to have these kinds of learning moments and being able to share best practices is what AHLA is all about. So we hope folks are engaged with us.
Beautiful. Parminder?
I'd say that the fact is that this is just a tip of the iceberg to the safety culture, and we need to remember that. And as you said, it is about humans taking care of humans, and it's people caring about people. And we've cared about the guests. This is the hospitality industry, and it's time to show the employees, that's always been there, but now to equip them and empower them by giving them the tools to take care of themselves as well. So it is a shift in the safety culture here, and staff alert technology is just sort of the tip of the iceberg.
Beautiful. I think you all just summed it up absolutely perfectly. So for Steve, Einar, Rob, Adrian, Parminder, and myself, Glenn, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.